Yeah,
So,
no problem.
Yep. So, public question time. I've been informed that we have no members of the public who want to actually speak, although I do have a member of the public in attendance, which is Councillor Judith Roberts. Hello and welcome. So we'll move on to 2002-2101, Public Bodies Act 1960, amended by the Openness of Local Government Bodies Regulation 2014. As local parish and town council meetings can be recorded, the chairman to check if anybody wishes to record the meeting and to ensure reasonable facilities can be provided. There will be recording of this meeting on YouTube in due course. Does anyone want to make an additional recording of the meeting?
No.
Okay, doke. Do we have any apologies for absence? I believe we do. Is that?
Yeah, we have from Councillor East and Councillor Feeney.
Okay, doke. Great stuff. To receive members' personal and disclosable pecuniary interests on items on the agenda and to receive any disclosable interests for officers. Okie doke. If anything comes up when we're in discussion, I'm sure people make us aware of it. Okay. Just consider written requests for DPI dispensations. Have we had any, clerk?
No.
Thank you, Liz. To consider whether items on the agenda should be discussed in private session. I'm not aware of anything that should be in private session. I'm guessing if we're in private session, we'd just have to switch the recording off at that time and then switch it back on afterwards. Is that right?
I guess so. We've never done it yet. But...
No, but I'm just checking we had the facility to do that.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that's how it would work, isn't it? Okay, doke then. To note the minutes of the previous meeting held on 6th of January 2020, numbered 1920-47 to 1920-59 inclusive, 6 of the first 20, which have been approved at the full council. Excuse me, I'm just going to have to plug myself in. My battery's running low. Sorry about this.
Note it.
Sorry about that. I just didn't want to disappear halfway through the meeting because my battery's gone flat. Okay, so then next thing is to go to, if anyone's got nothing for the meetings, we've got the grants then, 2021-07. I think the first one is the document C, which is a request from the Honley Business Association on behalf of Honley Youth Club for a grant of £1,000 towards the running of the youth club. Now, looking through the application, they have had money from us before in previous years. They've had £1,000, and previously that £1,000 went towards the running and the running costs of the youth club. This year, because of the COVID-19 regulations and what that would entail of actually running a youth club with people attending, would be quite difficult and prohibitive for them with the staff that they have and the volunteers that they have. So what they're proposing is to take the regular attendees of these youth club to various events which are basically events that happen in a secure, COVID secure environment. So they're getting some of that involvement and engagement with the youth club and that pastoral care, as we talk about, that but it won't be in a youth club setting. It'll be going out to various events which are detailed in the application. I've looked through it and I'm very much in support of it, but I'll open it up. Does anyone like to speak? I mean, fortunately there's no one here from Honley Youth Club, but does anyone like to speak for or against? Tom Dixon and then Mary Blacker.
The people have come presented to us before, and I think they've done an excellent job with all the various things that they've done, the jobs like that, helping out the kids in the Honley. It's a shame that they're not here to present tonight because they did really good updates and say all the work that they've done. But I would be fully supportive of this and propose that we give them the £1,000.
Okay. Councillor Blacker?
I feel it is absolutely vital because, I mean, more so now than before because,
So I can't hear what your tongue's saying.
sorry, you can't hear.
I can hear you, Mary.
Okay. I think this is absolutely vital and more so now than previously because COVID-19 has had a dramatic impact on young people. And as they say in the application form, there's been an increase in drug use. So I no hesitation recommending that we give them the grant they've requested.
Okay. Have we anybody else who'd like to speak either for or against? I believe we have sufficient funds in the budget, and therefore I propose that we move to a vote. All those in favour of supporting the application? I think that takes us unanimous. Thank you very much. The second one I've got is from Homley Christmas Lights. I believe it's a similar amount to what we normally they normally apply for, £1,000 towards their the Homley Lights switch on, which the event, isn't it? It's for the Homley switch on event, which is usually quite a good good event, which I enjoy because I can see it straight out of my bedroom window. I overlook it, so it's quite nice. It takes place in the car park. Really enjoy it. Always gets a really good turnout, and it is something I would support. However, given the circumstances what we're in, they've not said a right lot about what they're going to do with our money if it can't go ahead for whatever reason. And I think possibly these things may happen because you can't really guarantee whether things are going to go ahead or not go ahead. Now, some things you put, if for instance, it looked like it was going to go ahead and you put things in place and you spend money and you have to spend money for the event to go ahead, and then we have a local lockdown, which means it can't happen. There's not a right lot they can do about that. However, if they've got enough forewarning to know what they're going to do about it. So for me, I would have liked something in it, what they could say, telling us what their contingency plans are. I've nothing against them having the money in the first place, but in the circumstances where we find ourselves, some contingency about what they're going to do if it doesn't go ahead would have helped. However, I think I've got two people so far I want to speak, so I'm going to go to Tom Dixon, had his hand up first, and then Councillor Jason Brooke, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Anybody else, just stick your hand up.
Yeah, I think that if they don't have I think at the moment we don't know if it's going to go ahead or not. It is a very good event. I've attended it before. I attended it as chair. I helped turn on the lights before. It's a very good event, very well organised, brilliant for the community, but really not great really for COVID safety. Like Home Firth have already said they're not going to have their event. So I'd be happy to give them the grant. But for whatever reason, if it doesn't go ahead, or it won't do, then they have to save the money until next year instead, or return the money. I don't know. I'd be happy for them to just keep the money until next year and not apply for it then. And hopefully next year they can have a really good switch on.
Okay, Councillor Brooke. Councillor Jason Brooke, have you frozen? I think he must have frozen. Does anyone else want to speak? And we'll hopefully come back to Councillor Brooke if he appears. Is that all right? Anybody else? Any thoughts? Councillor Sheard. And then Kath. I'll do Councillor Sarah Sheard, and then I'll go back to Jason Brooke because he's waving his hand, and then we'll go to Kath. Is that okay? So, Councillor Sheard, you're muted.
I'm out first.
No, it's Councillor Sarah, Councillor Sheard.
Can you
Right.
hear me now? Yeah.
We can hear you, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Michael. Yeah, I agree with what Tom said. You know, it's a brilliant community event, and yeah, just keep the money till the following year if it has to be cancelled.
Councillor Jason Brooke.
Yeah. Another way of doing this is say like do it in principle, like we did with a couple of other things this year, where we we say, yeah, we'll honour the thing if they need it, but if obviously if COVID comes on and takes the event away, the money's still in our bank, and we do it that way. I think that might be more of a better way than doing it in principle, than trying to get them to do, like, you know, leave it for 12 months and all that. I think this year we might need to look at things like that instead.
Okay, it wasn't the greatest connection, but I think I got what you were trying to get across there, Jason. I appreciate that. Councillor Bellamy?
Well, I'm thinking that
Hello? Hello?
if... Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Kath.
All right. I'm thinking that if Home First is not asking us for a grant this time because they don't think they're going to be able to do it with COVID, I would think Honley would be the same. Have Honley got any reserves?
They do.
From memory, I think they only have about that amount in there. I can't remember, and I haven't got the stuff here. It costs 5,500 altogether.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. For me, I would like, you know, while I wouldn't want to criticise Home First for not going ahead with it, I think there's very much merit in that sort of choice. I also feel that we have to support business and business organisations that are wanting to get on and, you know, not try and put on events and keep things going, you know, and get things thriving in the village and what have you. It's you know, so I particularly would like to support them. It's just for me. I mean, I would have appreciated if one of them was here. We could have had that conversation about what's your contingency plan if it doesn't go ahead. But we can only sort of judge the application on what we've got in front of us, and I very much would like to support them. However, I don't know if we can't really condition support, can we, and say, well, if you don't have it go, give us his money back, or if they have incurred costs already on the setup costs, and then at the last minute we go into a local lockdown where it can't go ahead. I think it's very unfair to say, well, you're not getting out next year. So I myself would be to support. Anyway, Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, can I propose that we do it in principle? So, like, we give them the money at the last possible minute, you know, just in case this COVID does strike back. Then, as I say, we're not asking them to keep it for 12 months. Did we catch that?
Yeah, you put forward, I'll just repeat it, say it to everybody else. This is what I understood you to say, Councillor Brooke. Please correct me if I'm wrong. That you say that we grant the application in principle, but saying that we're going to defer payment until so, you know, I don't, what sort of time scale are we talking? Till 4 weeks before it goes ahead and 6 weeks before it goes ahead? You know, is that, I think without putting a date on it, it's very difficult to say we'll support it in principle, but not payment until the last minute, because the last minute is it the last minute, a minute before, or, you know, what we're talking? I don't think we can put a vague motion forward, is basically what I'm saying. I think if you Councillor Sheard.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. I guess if you give them the money and then they spend part of it and then there's a lockdown, you know, there is the risk that we lose part of the money, isn't there?
It is one of life's gambles, and it's one of the gambles for this parish council. But for me, I'm optimistic that if Honley Business Association are optimistic and confident that it can go ahead, then I would like to sort of, like, you know, I'm quite happy to be carried on their wave of enthusiasm. Councillor Blacker.
Sorry, the house phone's ringing. I would just suggest that we just put forward a motion that we give them the money. I don't think we can trammel it with any kind of conditions at all.
So we have. Oh, Councillor Bellamy.
I think they will try and do something because they're very passionate about what they do. So I do suggest that we do, you know, we do give it them.
So we have a motion and then I think an amendment to it. So the motion was from Councillor Jason Brooke, who's popping up and coming back. I think he needs to tell whoever's on the computer or streaming Netflix to put the normal telly on while he's in the meeting. And then, so that was the original motion by Councillor Brooke. The second, what is it? The amendment to it was that we just give them the grant as we normally would do, and just have to work on the principle that at some point they will have to feed back to us from how they've gone on with the grant, and follow it up at that point if the event didn't go ahead and they've spent the money on a holiday. But I think the amendment first. So the amendment is that we give them we support them as we would normally do, and just wait for the feedback when that comes in due course. All those in favour of that amendment? So the amendment is being carried, and therefore we just have to vote. So do we need to vote on the full motion as amended by Jason Brooke? I suppose you can all stick his hand up and then it's carried, isn't it? Yeah. It was carried with the amendment that we're giving the money now. Yeah. Thank you. I noticed Councillor Roberts, I don't know if she was waving goodbye or wanting to speak, but now she's disappeared, so there we are. Okay, moving on. The next one is for the Home Valley Transport Scheme, which is, for some of you who don't know, just to make myself clear, is it's an organisation that runs transport generally to get people to hospitals, doctor's appointments and hospital appointments, and
I think actually,
doctor's appointments.
actually mainly doctors and
doctors.
primary healthcare. Yeah.
Yes, sorry, doctors and primary healthcare. It doesn't go up to the hospital, unfortunately. It's primary care. Now, their totals for over a year, their total cost for a year is 18,000, which they raised from various different areas and what have you. And am I right in thinking we gave them 2,000 last year as well?
No, we gave them 1,000. I think the reason they have asked for a bit more is because they haven't been able to do their own fundraising, so they're already £1,000 down on what they
right
have.
Okay, so that's the reason why they're asking for slightly more, well, a double the increase. For myself, the bit that would come in for me is have we got the money? Now, can we via money cross what we would, being informed by Councillor Hogley that they're not going to come for any more Christmas money for a Christmas event this year. Are we in a position to move stuff out of the Christmas provision budget into the budget to make sure that we've got enough money for this? Have we enough money in the budget to give them the 2,000? First of all, Liz.
We've got enough money, and I think the environment comes later.
Yeah, I think the environment would come later, but we have enough money somewhere in the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've supported in the past. We've supported for a good number of years, as long as I've been a parish councillor. And I think even more than that, Kath might be able to tell me. Kath and Jason Brooke might be inform me better than that.
Yeah.
But it's if we do ever get back to the new normal and they can get back to their fundraising, then hopefully we can address how much money we're going to give them next time. But if they need 2,000 this time, then we've got the money. Then it's a facility for the people of the Home Valley that I'm quite happy to support. Has anyone any other thoughts? Shall we move to a vote? I'll put that we would support this application. All those in favour? And one abstention in Tom Dixon. Feeding the baby.
Is he?
I don't know. I've just made that up. I've just guessed that, but whatever. I think that's as good as an excuse.
That, isn't it?
It's a great excuse. It's as great an excuse as any. So I'm quite happy. Having seen the baby, you know, today was that was quite a nice little surprise for me actually when I tuned in earlier on and saw the baby.
Yeah.
Very bonny.
Oh, I missed that.
As they say, bonny of the calf, ugly of the bull. Anyway,
Where do you get those sayings from?
it's spending far too much time at farmers markets in my youth. Right. So the next item, that's the grants. I believe that's all the grants. I believe, is that right?
Yeah.
Benches. So regard to a recent request for benches. So do you want me to read through this, or do you want to just give us a brief update?
The first thing is to consider the policy, because if you remember, in
Yes.
January you asked me to draft a policy, which
Yeah.
I've done. So that's the first thing, is whether you agree with it.
I've looked through it and I think that's fine. I think it's what we kind of discussed what we would like the policy to be and sent you away to do the hard work of drafting it up, which I think you've done very, very well. And I'm quite happy with everything that's down here. Has anybody else got any comments or input? Contributions welcome.
No, it's fine. Looks fine to me too. Looks workable.
Okay.
Okay, then. So I'm going to put forward that we approve this policy and bring it into force regarding memorial benches.
Can I just say that Councillor Bellamy said to me earlier that, of course, that policy, if you pass it, has to go to full council to be approved. Is that right?
We'll put it forward to go to full council if that would make things, if that's how things need to be done. Councillor Brooke?
Yeah, we have to make a recommendation. I think that's the word we say.
Okay.
It's
We'll
a
make the
recommendation to the
recommendation.
council.
Yeah. The Service Provisions Committee makes the recommendation that the full council adopts this policy. Thank you, and thank you to the clerk for the hard work that she's done in drafting that up. A very nice, simple, clear, single A4 sheet. I like concise. Okie doke. And then recent request for memorial benches. So we've got one, which is the resident sought to take over management of a bench. With that, we informed that wasn't the way that we do things. I'm guessing that she's been made aware of the policy, even though it's in verbs rather than that it's been actually adopted yet.
Are you moving down to the second one now?
Yes.
So yeah. Yeah, I told her that was the policy. I thought that was the way you were going.
Yeah.
And she said she just wanted to she wasn't happy with just putting a plaque on the bench, so she wanted to withdraw her request.
Okay, and that's fine. I mean, that's her choice and where we are. Okay.
So both of those are noted. Both of those.
Yes, they're both the items are to note out there. We don't really have to take any action.
No.
Okay, doke. And then the new asset, the maintenance contractor and the associate of the Google Map positioned everything. I believe have they done actually some further work and they've got the bus shelters on and the war memorials and stuff yet?
Some of it's on. It's an ongoing thing because every time a bench gets painted, the picture's updated. So it's like a continual.
Yeah.
But there is still work to do on it.
So the committee is asked to consider remuneration for this work. The maintenance contract suggests £400 required, which would cover the setting up of the maps and the ongoing updating of photos of the benches as repaired. For myself, although I think it's great, it's absolutely a fantastic thing that's been done, and a lot better in the future for us keeping hold of those benches. I mean, I envisage in future when we're talking about a particular bench, we'll be able to ping it up in the meeting and I'll know which one we're talking about and where we're talking about, which I always think if you've got a picture of what you're talking about always helps a little bit. So I think it is really, really good. I dread to think how much it would have cost if we'd have got actually contracted somebody to do that kind of work. I'm sure it would. I have no idea how many man hours have gone into it, but the sum that we suggest about remuneration for it and what have you, I think pales into significance. I think you could easily add a 0 on the end of that if you got someone in properly to do it. But I'll open it up to the floor if anyone wants to have a chat and talk about it.
Mr. just, just to say it's excellent. And when I went round and looked at the benches in Hepworth, I mean, it was just great to look them up beforehand, plot my route, go around. It was brilliant. Yeah, excellent
stuff. Anyone else?
It's helped me enormously, because when people phone up to complain or ask for something to be done, I can immediately say whether it's our bench or not, which I couldn't do before. Oh,
That's good.
yeah, so it's been
we
really
asked,
useful.
so there's a cost benefit in saving the clerks hours of doing the research and finding out.
Definitely. Yeah.
And no, that's good. Councillor Dixon?
Yeah, it is really good. It's very good what's been done, but my only qualm would be, is there an area in the budget for this? Or we haven't previously proposed or to do something like this or make something like this. So to pay for it retrospectively is a bit of a grey area, if you know what I mean. I really like it, and if it had come up before and someone had suggested it, I'd be like all for it. But yeah, it's just I don't know how we would fit in with it. Or I want to make sure we do everything right.
Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, one way we could do that is to put it towards the pubs and com publicity, and it could come out the publicity budget.
How? That's still not like a budgeted area.
Because it is pubs and commons, isn't it? Which is advertising where where benches are, so it could come out of the budget from pubs and commons.
Anybody else? Any thoughts?
Can I say that the budget for managing the benches is open-ended, isn't it? I know we have got a budget of, is it 10,000? So, I mean, we could say to the contractor that needs to be part of that budget of managing the benches. That's a possibility, because
that works for me. That works for me.
That I can see this as a sort of management function of the management of the benches and looking after them, and go with a more modern system or what have you. So if we can fit it into the expenses that way, I would be, I would feel happier with it than I would do agreeing for something that we never asked for. I mean,
well, shall we see how much the budget is spent by the end of the year, and then decide whether we can afford to pay out of what's left over, or
how are we looking so far?
Oh, well, who knows, because it's been so weird, hasn't it? I mean, we could have money because, of course, the benches nothing happened, no strimming for 3 months and no painting for 3 months. So there should be some flexibility in it.
Okay, Councillor Brooke.
I feel like if we are going to do it, I think we need to be upfront and give the money when it as required, not at the end of the year, because he's doing his hard work, and we need to help, get ahead with this.
My only other thought as well is this a one-off fee, or are we? I don't want to set precedent that we're going to end up paying this sort of money, kind of every year. I mean, for me,
it was intended to be a one-off. And I think what we ought to do is look at how long it takes to update it each, and then we need to revisit that. If there's any suggestion that there's an ongoing fee, I don't think there will be.
Okay. Unless we put a new bench up, and then we'd have to update that, wouldn't we, with a new bench?
Well, they'll all be updated all the time, because they're all being painted and fixed. And
so who does the updating now? Is it John Farr that does the updating?
No, it's
now,
the guy who set it up, who's Fermor, his name, isn't it? Something Fermor. And he just did it because he likes walking and because he likes tech, and he just put the two together, and he was happy to do it.
Okie doke. Councillor Dixon.
I propose that we use the budget for maintenance of benches for like the current year, but we probably need to have a think about maybe one for another meeting where we think about it for future years and how if we're going to maintain it or what we're going to do. Because if it's just like a couple of additions, or will it be every time John does some work on a bench, he takes a picture of it and adds it on there, or is it just going to stay as it is really?
I think we can sort of put forward that if we can get it out of the current budget for benches and management, that's I'm quite happy to pay the 400. However, we're aware that this will need sort of like regular updating and this kind of thing. And if it was like paying for this, then we would we need a formal sort of like an agreement of where we're going to go for ongoing costs. Please come to us with what you're
Okay.
a proposal for how you're going to bill us in the future. Does that make any
Yeah.
sense? Councillor Brooke, did you want to chip in again?
No, I agree. I think you're right. I think we should, if it is a one-off payment, I think we need to pay,
Yeah.
It's the work that's sort of being done already, but I need to the idea, but I do understand what you're saying, that if it is going to be an ongoing thing, we need to know up front so we can like, sort of get budgets proposed for next year as well on that.
Okay, doke. All those in favour of what we've just said? I think that's everybody. Great stuff. And then there's item 2021-13 is just to note, as everybody, that has everyone gone through that?
There is one decision to make. So the bench at Longing Road we're pretty sure it was a council bench, it had been long forgotten. Mm-hmm. And then just as the contractor updated it and renewed the slats, the person that lives next door to it has asked if we can move it down the road so that it's not next to his property.
Not knowing where this one is and not visited it, I find it really difficult to comment, really. Councillor, has anybody any experience of this bench?
I know where it is. So as you go past Hayde Edge Primary School, there's an unmade up road virtually opposite it, and it's on that road. It's about 100 metres down, and the guy wants us to move it another 20-30 metres down.
Okay, doke. I think
Councillor Brooke, it will cost £70 to do that.
Councillor Brooke, are you? I believe you're a councillor for Hayde Edge. Is that right?
I live in Hayde, but I go past this bench quite a lot, and it is absolutely damaged. The problem with that road is there's a lot of houses backing onto that road. So, and I think where the bench is now, it's like a beautiful view, and I think moving it might ruin the view, because further down the road is like a farmyard where people have access, and it will be in the way. So I'm inclined to ask to keep it where it is.
Okay, doke. Has anybody else got experience of said bench?
I'm just looking on Google Maps now.
Did you hear that? So have you gone off?
I don't think it's been put on as our bench yet.
No, but we can look on his Google Maps and just find out where it is.
Okay. It does have an amazing view down to Holmesdale Reservoir, but I think you'd have a good view if you moved it a little bit.
I don't know where the bench is. I can't find it on Google Maps, but from my experience, when we've moved benches before, there's always one person that gets annoyed about it, because they always like that bench, and there always will be one person that complains. So if it's really detrimental to that neighbour, I don't know. I think we need a bit more details about it, don't we? Or we need to have a proper look at it and decide. There's always going to be one person who's going to be annoyed about it, but what can you do?
Councillor Sheard.
Yeah, I think he comments that it's because of kids being unruly, but I mean, they might be still unruly even if you move the bench further down. It seems a bit sort of, especially, unless he wants to pay for the bench to be moved. But then people sit on that bench because it is a lovely view. He was there when he obviously bought the house or owned the land. He needs to get a grip.
I suppose it was just something I was inquiring about when the guy was fixing the fixing the bench that's all, you know, cutting back around the bench was there. He's not someone who's come out of the blue and asked us, has he? So I want, you know, move your bench. I think it's just an inquiry that he's made, hasn't it?
No,
He-
I'd say no.
Can I just say that in his defence, he said he wants to put an access gate to his property right where the bench is, but I seem to remember there's a whole area of wall behind that bench, and he could have picked any part of it.
A bit.
But I'm not too sure. I could do some more research.
Okay, I mean, I don't know the bench, so I find it difficult to make a decision. I also think that I don't think we should be, you know, I take on board that whenever we do move a bench, someone's upset and feels terrible about it, you know, because their golden retriever that died 5 years ago's ashes are underneath that bench because that's where they stopped when they went for a walk. So if we were to move a bench, I don't think we should just decide at a committee meeting. I think we should put, like, if it was planning or something like that, you would stick a sign on it saying we are in consultation about moving this bench. A decision will be made on this date. Please come to the parish council on this date if you've got a problem, an issue with it. I think would be a way of going forward if we were to move it. Anyway, so that's kind of my thoughts. So, Tom?
Yeah, I was just going to say that if the guy is not even written to us about it, complaining, I think we should just park it for now. And then if he raises it as an issue again or asks us again about it, then we should cover it then. But for now, just kind of leave it as it is, I think.
So am I right in thinking this is hearsay, him speaking with...
No, he wrote to me. Sent me an
he's wrote
email.
to you. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we have had a formal application to move the bench.
Yeah.
Okay, we should have a look into it properly. Like, I'd be quite happy just to... Jason probably knows it really well, but like I've walked on there a few times, but I'll try and make it so that I walk on there before the next meeting. And we can discuss it further then.
Do you think we should put signage up at the... Should we put it on as an item at the next meeting? And then should we have a sign on the bench saying a formal application has been made to the parish council for moving of this bench?
Yeah.
Please, you know, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
You know, and if it comes that the whole mass of Haid Edge come en masse and say, yes, move the bench, move the bench, move the bench, then that's what we'll do. If they all say, don't move the bench, and they all turn up with burning crosses, then we don't move the bench.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we all feel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just ask if you agree to that, which you are doing, could Jason go and have a look at where the other alternative placement might be?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure whether it's in school, whether it's quite in schools, in schools, because schools ward into the Haid Edge. So I'll go and have a look.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in Mary's ward. Jason's Wardale Council, so
may
it's
well
Mary's
be.
ward.
Okay.
I may even have a drive out myself and look at the
Yeah,
bench.
we can all go and look at the bench to give us time.
Okay,
Well,
okay.
I've never seen it before, so I was delighted to discover it.
Can we have some sort of notice then affixed to what is left of the bench, and
No, the bench has been mended. It's completely
So-
renovated.
can we arrange to have a sort of? Does anyone want to put the said sign up on the bench when we come and have a look at the bench? That would save us getting John Ford to do it. Are you okay with that, Liz?
Yeah.
So once we know the date of the next service provision meeting, which I think we do, don't we? So
Yeah.
we can put that it will be an item on the agenda of that meeting, and if you would put forward your whys and wherefores. Yeah.
Okay.
And are we going to charge the guy who's wanting the bench moving to move the bench?
Yeah.
So, Councillor Brooke, Councillor
Yeah.
Brooke first, then Councillor Blacker, then Councillor Sheard. Councillor.
If you are going to support an also, can I suggest that you write to the Hay Committee, which is like the community group for Haid Edge, because they have a meeting monthly, and they'll be able to bring it up in, you know, to the community a lot quicker. Which is Kerry Sykes is the vice chairman of that committee, which I think we are emails for her. But to give you an idea where the bench is, if when you go past the school, there's a dirt track about 10 yards on the left-hand side. If you go along there, it's about 100 yards on the left-hand side.
Okay, doke. So,
Can you hear me, or is it
yeah,
not
it's a
very
bit
good?
muffled, but just to summarise what I think you said is that can we notify there's some sort of Haid Edge community group, and is it Kerry Sykes or something? But I'm sure Councillor Brooke will pass on to Liz Bennett any contact details for that group, and if they're the local vigilantes that get up about this sort of stuff, they can have a talk about it and make them aware as well as we're putting a sign on the bench. Does that sound okay?
Yeah.
Okay, doke. Councillor Blacker.
I was going to say just yes, let him pay if he wants it to be moved. I think he should pay.
And Councillor Sheard.
Yeah, I agree. If he wants it moving, he ought to pay, because he should be happy that children are outside rather than being stuck on the computers.
Thank you for that contribution. So, Councillor Brooke, again.
Yeah, I'm a bit annoyed that he's saying about the children that I go past there virtually every day. There's never been any kids hanging around. It's a go-through area where people walk. The only people who go to that bench is when they're sitting down to admire the view for 5-10 minutes. I think he's just trying his luck on, personally, and I do agree that if he wants it moving, he's got to pay for it to be moved.
Okay,
It's been there for about 40 odd years. Nobody's had an issue with it.
Councillor Sheard.
Yeah, and it's a really gorgeous view. So I think he's just one of these, you know, sort of. I think we should just ignore him.
Yeah, I think you know, if I was a complete capitalist, I'd be saying, well, you can have an application fee and we'll discuss it for 70 quid, and then if we want it moving, it's another 70. If we agree you can move it, it's another 70. But I don't really think we can go down that route, can we?
Oh, what a shame.
Yeah. So anyway, so I think we've got a way forward, haven't we? I'm sensing it's not going to move this bench, but we'll all look up and have a look at it, and it gives a trip out to Haydedge and maybe buy a pork pie from Brendan Addy's. Other pies are available, and other butchers up there as well are available.
Yes, I would like to remind you that this is going to be a public meeting. This video is going to be on YouTube.
I'm sure they will enjoy the humour. I don't think I've said anything too far untoward just yet. Maybe the Hepworth Vigilantes don't like me referring to them as that, but I didn't quite get the full name of their group. I'm sure they're very, very well civic-minded people. Okie doke. So moving on, is that it for benches? We've noted the items, haven't we? The Friends of Homeforth Library, the work has been carried out, so that's to note. I don't think we've any more on benches.
Next one's benches as well.
Oh, are you? To note an update on the survey of benches, bus shelters and memorials and art and socials. So most of the benches, bus shelters, phone boxes, war memorials and art and socials have been reviewed by the councillors, and they're all in their conditions of safety noted. The update spreadsheet, which I've seen, been forwarded to the maintenance contractor, who's responded quickly where there is any danger to the public, and otherwise adds these requests into his usual work of restoration and repair. In large part, the benches were found to be in a reasonable repair, but several required painting. The asset register has been updated by the deputy clerk in readiness for the internal audit and the renewal of the council's insurance. Can I just formally thank all the councillors and everybody and the council staff? I'm sure both the clerk and the assistant clerk have had a crack at this, have they? Looking at the various ones and what have you, and I would like to thank them all for their input and their energy, and thank you very much indeed. Okay, doke. Moving on. Christmas trees. To consider the progress on purchasing the position of living trees. So we have had one taker at Scholes Methodist Church. We'll be happy to have with a living tree, but we are still waiting for a quote for the local provider. Is that right?
Yeah, I haven't had any. I don't think they want us to have living trees, because then they're out of a job, aren't they?
Well,
they haven't come back with anything, and I've asked several times.
Okay, well, I mean, we may have to go to someone else for the living tree if that's the case. If somebody wants one, we're the customers.
Yeah. Well, I suggest a bit later on that would the councillors engage in this discussion with their relative communities, because it's a lot of work for me to do.
Mm-hmm. Rightio. So, has anyone? So, are you quite happy to still negotiate with the provider? Scholes say they would happy to have a. Scholes have said that they would be happy with a living tree.
Yeah.
Are you as a clerk happy to pursue sourcing a living tree for Scholes?
No, what I'm hoping is that those groups will do it for themselves.
And then get back to us with the cost of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have anything to do with Scholes Methodist Church?
Can I just, sorry, Can I just check what we've agreed? Because I mean, Scholes Methodist Church was still, I've been asked to, well, it was a few weeks ago now about how much, about something about it. So are we saying that I go to Scholes Methodist Church and ask them if they can source a tree?
The situation is that we were hoping that our regular tree supplier would be able to provide a living tree. However, they're not coming back to us with a significant quote because we think they like to chop them down every year and provide a new one that way. So if you could, as a councillor, if you've enough time, I'm sure, Mary, you haven't, because you always seem very, very busy to me. But if you could have a look and see if you can find a supplier that will provide a living tree, or have a word with the people at the Methodist church, and see whether they could
That's fine.
provide. Is that what the clerk? Is that?
That's fine. That's fine. We can do it together. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Thanks.
Okay, so that's the Scholes one, and thank you, Councillor Blacker. The Honley one is the People's Park, but the park belongs to Kirklees, I believe, and their parks department have raised some issues regarding availability of electricity, and time needed for the tree to grow. But we'll be buying one of a Christmas tree size to begin with, wouldn't we?
A small one. If you're planting a new tree, you're probably going to go for, I don't know, no more than 6 foot.
Yeah, but you can still trim a 6-foot tree, can't you? You know, for the first year.
You can.
Yeah. And then the second year it'll be 7 foot, 8 foot, 9 foot, 10 foot, and that's the way of it. That's the way of it goes, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
I can't remember
although they have no objection, so do the people at who did we talk to at Honley?
I can't remember. Was it
that the business?
I think it's Business Association.
Business Association. Well, I think Sean deals with them quite a bit, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. That's right. Yeah.
Right. I'll have a word with Sean East, Councillor Sean East, and ask him if he can raise that with them and whether they want to pursue it or not. Although Kirklees have raised some issues, they haven't. They don't have an objection, and so we want to find out if Honley if they want to pursue this or not. So I'll contact Sean East and ask him if he can do that. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okie doke. And then so Councillor Brooke.
Yeah. The garden centres do living trees, which are about 4 or 5 foot. Could we not have a word with a garden centre and see, can we get one from them?
Which councillor? Sorry, Liz.
Can I just say that it's the time involved in all the toing and froing. It'd be much better if they went to the garden centre, costed it up, worked out who was going to plant it and look after it, and then came back to us with the price. My view.
Okay, no, that sounds good to me, and I'll mention that to Sean. Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, well, I was going to say there is 2 garden centres very near to where I live. There's Brooklands and Totties, so both of them might be useful places just to inquire about it.
Do you ever pop in when you're taking your young child out in a perambulator?
Yeah, I may have done a few times during August when it was a help out to eat out. Yes.
Yeah.
I may not do now since that scheme's over, but yeah, I can always go in there and inquire and ask about it next time I go by.
That would be appreciated. Yeah. Councillor Blacker.
I could sort this out with Tom because it's easy. Those are the 2 places I was going to start with. But can I just clear that the parish council will be paying for the planting as well as the tree?
I believe that what we want, the way we're looking at this is the saving for the council is that they'd have the tree, so there might be slightly more upfront cost for the parish council, but they won't be wanting a tree every year afterwards, so there will be a cost saving. Secondly, it will be much better for the environment than cutting having a tree ongoing and ongoing. Well, would it or wouldn't it? I need someone who was a bit more up to date on green issues. But to me, it seems better if you got one that's going and growing and lasting and lasting and lasting. In my kind of point of view. So that's the second point of it. Which is a good win for the council. And if people want, I think this came from someone to begin with who was there. So yeah, if Mary, while you're at the if we get one price from a garden centre, then we've got a price, haven't we? And we know where we are. And then, it's for the people, if they want these, if they can organise the planting of it, they're putting it in and getting it sorted out and what have you, and then come back to us with a cost, we'll have a look at it, is basically what we're saying, isn't it? Is that right? Yeah, that was my understanding. Councillor Brooke?
Yeah, I think what we said at the beginning was that we will pay for the Christmas tree and to be planted, so
Yeah.
it's there as a one-off cost. But I think for the maintenance over the years, possibly, which will work out a lot cheaper for us to do in the long run. So I think that we need to be quite clear that we will plant it. We'll pay for the cost of planting, so it's not them incurring the cost.
But then it's your tree. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I understand it to be. Okay, so Upper Thong have said they've no suitable site, so they're obviously staying with a tree once a year. And then Hinchliffe Mill have no suitable site for a living tree, and we're still awaiting feedback from Homebridge. Is there any news from the councillors from the Upper Hove Valley?
I thought Kath might know what Homebridge view was.
Yeah, they always put a tree in front of the cenotaph. There's nowhere else that they can put one.
So no suitable site.
No.
That's fine. So we may get two to go with, which in our first time round of sort of putting this forward, and you never know, in another year when they all see these living trees, we might get some more take up. But 2 is a success, I think. Okie doke. And thank you for that offer of contacting the garden centres, Tom and Mary. That's great.
So at the end of that, I've asked if you could therefore approve either to continue with our usual about £100 per village for a living tree, or £100 plus for a living tree.
No, for a cut tree.
Did I say that the wrong way around?
Yeah.
I think it's £100 for a planted tree, for a cut tree,
yeah.
and about probably 200 or something like that.
Well, we'll see. What we don't really know what the actual costs are going to be for a living tree yet, but it's something that
But we haven't got another meeting until January. I'm just conscious that if we don't,
what we're going to get in this year. Okay, so yeah, I think we'll go with that 100 and 200, and if they come back and it's costing more than the 200, we may have to look at what else we can do. We might have to spread this money from Home First Light unswitch on a bit thinner. Councillor Brooke.
I think putting a budget on that for the £200 is not enough. Let's be sensible about this. Let's make 300-400 just in case. I mean, if they only spend 200, it's great, but we can't. We need to get a budget set properly where it's going to cover. Because we are 10 years time, we're going to be appreciated. We've done it.
I think we're sticking.
We saved a fortune, so let's be sensible about the budget here.
Well, as budget was set earlier on in the fiscal period, and our budget is what our budget is. We can't really stick a pin in and guess exactly how much this tree is going to cost and what have you. I think we've got a bit of leeway in the Christmas budget from the news from Home First not having a light switch on. So I think if we come back with what the actual costs are, we can look at them. And if they're horrendous costs and what have you, then we say, actually, we've looked at it and it's not something we can go forward with the living tree. But if it's something reasonable and we can find the money out of the Christmas provision, we can go ahead with it and go that way. That's my thinking of it.
I mean, really.
So I say agree the 100 and the 200. Sorry, Liz.
I was going to say, realistically, most people are probably going to go for a cut tree this year and look at planting next year. So we haven't really got to make that decision.
I think you're right. I think you're right. But if someone does come with it and that's the way they want to go this year, then we'll do our best to start with.
Okay.
So yeah, 100 and 200, but we'll see how it. Okie doke. That's where we are. So is that it for Christmas trees?
No, I think there's
the 4 trees.
Yeah.
For Kirklees.
Yeah, the one we usually pay for the bigger trees for the bigger
villages. Yep. So I haven't got what we paid last year to Kirklees Council. So how much has this changed? Do we know?
It's about the same. I mean, they quote it with VAT but actually we'll pay a bit less because we won't be paying VAT.
Yep, we'll,
So-
we'll
It's under 4,000.
okie doke. Yeah, let's go. I'm happy to support that. Is anybody else? We've always supported in the past. Do you want to speak?
I think that's
Second that. Does anyone want to speak on it, or should we just move to a vote? I'm going straight to a vote. All those in favour? Unanimously. Thank you very much. Minibuses. So, to note the information provided by West Yorkshire Transport Services, which is document H, which, you know, the decline in numbers is not looking good, is it?
No.
But we have to respond that the value for each of those people who have worked those journeys, you know, the value is, you know, is immense. You know, it's a really, really good service, and it's pity it's not being used by more. But anyway, Councillor Dixon.
Yeah, I read the figures just before the meeting of the patronage, and I've got a minibus which goes past outside my house. So when I've been working at home a lot recently, I've been seeing it go past. And also when me and the missus are out on our daily walks and things like that, we see buses go past through Wardale. And I don't know if anybody else has noticed it recently, but the buses are extremely empty at the moment. And I can understand this because a lot of our customers are the kind of people who are possibly sheltering, or there's not as many people been getting out making journeys due to COVID and various things like that. So something may have to give at some point, because the bus companies will not be getting their money from passengers, and although we're giving money towards them, and so Metro, when there's a lot of empty buses going around at the moment, it's probably not good value for money for us at the moment, but in the long term, we need to think about whether we want the minibus to continue and whether it's worthwhile or not. And if numbers do continue to decrease, we might have a decision to make. It could be a bit awkward.
Okay, Councillor Blacker.
Yeah, I mean, apart from this year when they are running empty past my house too, it's the long-term decline, and I mean, really, it's just something we should be addressing. We should try and get more people onto those buses. I think there's a big job to do about letting people know where they are running.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe this is a matter for the Climate Emergency Committee to, I mean, I think increasing public transport should be one of their functions.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's kind of echoed some of my sort of thoughts, really. I do think there is a job to be done. It's just a case of who we're going to try and get to do this job, isn't there? If we can get volunteers to do it, that would be better. But if we have to get paid people to do it, then that is there. I think there's avenues regarding I think there's a bit of, it's like a Venn diagram, isn't it? I think we could get I will get to you. You can put your hands down, Tom, and say, I've got you down here.
Right.
Wanted to speak, but I'll just finish my point and then I'll come to you if that's okay, using my chairman's privilege. So I think there's that Venn diagram of sort of we pay for that service, so we want people to use it. We want people for the climate emergency group. Definitely want people to use the buses. And I think also there's various walking groups out and what have you. And I think if someone put together some walks that utilise these buses, that might help a lot. That could help as well. You know, you could catch a bus out to such and such, start your walk there, and then get such and such a bus back. And if somebody had some walks with a timetable, I thought that might be something that might be worth looking at. Then just my thoughts. But anyway, Councillor Dixon, and then I'll come to Councillor Sheard.
Yeah, well, I think as a committee, I think Mary made a good point. As a committee, we could give funds to pay for the minibuses and try and keep them going. But as an idea, the Climate Emergency Group, one of their jobs could be to get bums on our seats of our buses. So it might be that we put like next year we might have to try and relaunch the buses, because at the moment not many people are using them, and it might just be an idea just to kind of like for 1 week give away free access onto the buses, just to get people to be aware of them and actually to go and use them, because we need to do something to kind of relaunch it and get it back out there and people doing it, and radical ideas, something like that.
Councillor Sheard, and then I'll come to you, Councillor Brooke. I've seen your hand. You don't have to keep it up.
Yeah, it's really sad seeing I've been observing them being completely empty. It's very sad. But as somebody who's sort of been involved with the climate emergency, I've been thinking whether it'd be more economical to have, some electric cars where they just have a service where people ring them and they get the picked up directly from their door with an electric car, and it's more a bespoke service because we can't. I mean, I think these buses are run by, would it be diesel or are they environmental?
Yeah, we did have the guy from West Yorkshire Passenger Transport, didn't we? And he did talk about the vehicles there, and the standards go for the vehicles the standard is ever increasing every time the contract is renewed. The emission standards of what vehicles they can use to run a public service bus service are going up and going up and going up. And whereas they're not fully, on the fully, down the road, that is what will happen. The bus companies aren't allowed to rise, 1960s diesel engines which bellow a load of smoke out the back of them all the time. They have to have a vehicle to a certain standard. So whilst it's maybe not as quick as we want to be, the environmental standard of them will go better. And if we can get people bums on seats, the bus is the most effective, isn't it? Because you get 3 or 4 people in a 5, 6, 10, a full bus is really economical and very much good for the environment. So I think we may really look what we can do as a parish council to really push take up. If it doesn't work and if we still see ongoing decline, we may have to look at spending our money better. And your suggestions, Councillor Sheard, may be where we go. Councillor Brooke.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how many people are walking and not using the bus service, which is more greener. I know there's a bus service from Haydedge, and a lot of people give up on it because it doesn't match with any other bus services into Huddersfield at all. And I think that was a problem raised earlier in the year when they came around, that buses need to link a lot better, and they said we're going to look into it, and I don't know if they have or not. But it could be interesting to see what the people walking are doing, because if it's more footfall walking, it's it's better for the environment that we don't have the bus service and bums on seats, as we call it.
I think at the end, though, you have the need, don't you? And it's the people who need the service. The people generally, I think, who you'll see on the buses are people who probably the walk to home for isn't so appealing due to age and other mobility issues. So,
Kath's got a hand up.
Kath, sorry, Kath, I do apologise.
It's all to do with COVID. It's been a big part of the parish council.
Can I make Kath, can I make a suggestion?
Like to think, lose it.
We can't really hear you, Kath.
I think we've got to sort of promote it as what's been said. Yeah.
It's finding difficult hearing you. It might work better if you turn the video off, but just leave the audio on. Sometimes that can help. Do you want to have another go? No, you've turned the audio on and left the video on. You need to do the other way around. Councillor Sheard.
Michael, what is the overall budget for the buses for the parish council? Just roughly.
How much do we give them?
We give them £24,000 a year.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting for the parish council to have some sort of electric car where somebody's, just.
Well, I think
offering...
having someone to drive the car would blow that budget, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I suppose 24,000 isn't too bad then, is it?
It's a lot of money, but it's when you think of looking at alternatives you could do with that
Mm.
to have an effective sort of everyday service. You know, it will be difficult. Kath, you're
Right,
back.
can
with
you
us.
hear me now?
I can. That's a lot better. I don't know what you've done.
Right, right. Did you hear what I said before?
Not at all. Not at all.
All right. Just that you know, it's all to do with COVID, and I'm sure people will, once they get a bit more confident, people will come back on them buses, because a lot of old people, you know, use them. So, you know, we do need to promote them, you know, a lot more, because I'd hate to see this service go from Parish Council, because we've done it for so many years.
Okay, Tom Dixon, and then I'll come up with a bit of a proposal. I think.
Yeah,
Tom?
my last thing I'd say is that if the numbers do continue to decrease, then Metro would also be reluctant to put their funds towards it as well. Metro try and do their funds so that it pays for so many heads per pound or whatever it is, and they have their own equations to work out for this. So I think we want there to be more people on the buses, isn't it? More people using it. And it probably it may get to a case in a year or two where if the numbers do continue to decrease, that it's going to be use it or lose it. So I think at the moment we want it to continue going ahead, but we just need to kind of find some way to kind of publicise it a bit more and try and get a few more bums on seats.
Yeah, okay. I think we should continue supporting it. It's definitely in the short term, the next year, couple of, you know. But I think we should ask, if possible, if the figures of bus usage can be circulated to both the Climate Emergency Committee and and also the Publicity Committee, and ask for them thoughts of how we can any thoughts and inputs how we can publicise the use of these, you know, these buses. You know, that, you know, mention that we pay 24,000 a year, and the Service Provision Committee is looking at any input possible to which would increase uptake of these buses. Liz.
I would just say that the advice at the moment is not to travel on the buses unless you absolutely have to. I mean, it's not. They're not empty just because people are frightened. They're empty because you're not meant to use them.
Yeah. No, I kind of agree.
You know.
I mean, the worst thing about this is it says the worst figure is 2019. That's pre-COVID, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they could much be even worse now. So whether we put a plan of publicity of using the buses into effect now, well, we probably won't do because we've got the COVID and we don't want to go against that. But once we get into some sort of new normal, we want to be pushing. You know, if we can have something up and ready to go at that time, that'd be great. I think Councillor Sheard and then Councillor Brooke. No? Councillor Brooke? Are we okay with that then? Is that okay going forward? Are we all agreed? Is that all right? Should we do that? Great stuff. Okay.
Yeah, I think the pubs and cons were doing something about the. It's been so long with the buses.
Not being on that committee, I'm not 100% sure. But
I think all they did was to advertise the fact it was the anniversary of the setting up of that bus service, and they put a little article about it in the Holme Valley Review. Because it's 50 years, I think, since they started.
Okie doke. I mean, it's very difficult doing any publicity about getting people on to use those.
What we're going to do,
COVID,
we're going to do the fares. We're going to do the cheap fare thing for them.
I think we were, Jason. I can remember that were being discussed, but I think events have taken over from us, and we're not in a position to sort of get people on the buses for a penny a ride. When advice is that people don't, if you can find an alternative mode of transport.
No, I'm not suggesting doing it now. I'm just saying that that's what we were thinking of doing at the time to get it publicised. So I mean, might be more to do next year once we get back up and running.
Definitely an option. Definitely an option. Okay, next on the list I've got down then. Are we okay with that then? So the next bit is more to note, I think, is the request for the West Yorkshire Authority for a rebate. We asked for a rebate and they've said, oh, it might be possible, we'll look at it, but nothing's come back and no rebates come yet.
Can we
Right.
chase them up again about that?
I could do. I personally feel it's a bit mean. I mean, they're going to be really struggling to meet their costs at the moment, and we must be quite a big part of their budget.
Not if they furloughed their staff. Like all the bus drivers would have been furloughed, so
Yeah, if they furloughed their staff,
Okay, yeah, I'll look it up.
yeah. If they come back to and say, well, we didn't furlough, we still had ongoing
Yeah.
costs and what have you, then
Yeah.
that's a good answer, isn't it? That's the answer we'll have to accept. Well, you know, if they've laid off all their staff and stopped and run less buses, then,
Yeah,
you know, if the government's paid them and then they're still taking their money from us, have we got
Okay.
corporate fraud?
Yeah.
Okay, doke. And then the next item, consider feedback to the proposals for the WYCA. The bus fares are made more accessible for young people. I think we've all seen the sheet. I've read through it. It's really good. I like the proposals, and I would just like to feedback that we support it wholeheartedly.
yeah.
Are we all in agreement there? Yeah. We would, you know, Home Valley Parish Council would like to offer our full support.
Yep.
Is that okay? Oh, the Service Provision Committee would. Okay, moving on. And then we have a complaint from a resident of Penistone Road near Hayed Edge.
can I just cut through this one and make it a bit quicker? Sorry. There've been lots of toing and froing about it, and it's what Councillor Brooke was saying earlier, that Hayed Edge is on the end, and they've tried really hard to make the bus times connect, but in doing that they've taken some people out of the routes, and everybody agrees it's a problem and everybody's trying to look at it, and I don't think there's much we can add to that.
Okay, no, I think that's about there. I mean, we're not in charge of the bus schedule, so I didn't think we'd be able to actually, you know,
Just to let you know, really.
no, but thanks, that's noted. Anyone, any further comments on that before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, I'd heard about this from another route. I was thinking I might go and see, because it's in my patch, and make sure it is fully aware of all the buses that do run.
Yeah.
But I do know at the last but one rescheduling of the 310 bus, it did run through Hayed Edge, and there was very little usage as far as I understand. So difficult.
Councillor Brooke?
There is a bus service what does come through Hayed Edge, which is on the top road, Dunford Road, which goes into Holme Firth, which is run from Barnsley. Maybe he needs to be aware of that as well, because you know there's more than one bus service what does come into Hayed Edge. But I think it's every 2 hours, which is the problem.
Yeah, I was going to find out exactly what does run through Hayed Edge, and I was aware of that once, Jason. So yeah, I'll go and see him anyway and chat it through.
Okay, doke. Moving on to that lovely subject next of dog waste. The committee is asked to review this policy and consider whether it wishes to approve it again. Well, I've had a look through the dog poo policy. I've got it here somewhere.
It's from 2017.
Yes, 2017. I remember it well when we discussed this the last time. Councillor Dixon.
In my about 13 years I've been on the council, I spent many an hour talking about dog poo and dog muck, and I don't really want to discuss it too much further because it just kind of goes around in circles, unfortunately, but I'm happy just to keep with the current policy. It seems okay.
Any further comments? Kath?
I agree with Tom.
Anybody else? Okie doke then. My comments on it just before we start is that, you know, dogs make mess. Some people don't pick it up. It's horrible. everybody should pay for their own bin bags to pick up their own waste and take it with them. Unfortunately, some people don't. If having dog dispensers means that we get better than we would have without the dog dispensers, then I think we continue to pay for them. But you know, it's just one of those necessary evils that that's where we are. So I'm quite happy to support the carry on with it as is. All those in favour? That's the dog bit, yeah. And then to note the replacement of the yeah, and then I'm guessing this will be revisited again in 12 months' time, is it, the dog waste policy? Or
No, I don't think so. I mean, I just thought I'd ask you before I put it on the website, because it's not on the
Okay,
website, and it should
Okay.
be.
Can I, unless we have some sort of majorly kind of issue around it and it's raised by a number of complaints on parishioners and what have you, can I say that we review it in the next in 3 years' time?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Can we note the next item as well about the replenishment costs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we just move on and note that about the dispensers? Are we all right with that? Just noting and moving on. Yeah. Okay. To note, the resident in Oldfield continues to be dissatisfied with the lack of waste bin. She's been referred to Kirklees. That's noted. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then missing waste bin in Homebridge has been replaced. Has that been replaced, Kath?
What are we on?
Yeah, it wasn't a dog bin, it was just a general waste
Oh,
bin.
was it a waste bin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. It didn't have anything. It weren't Kirklees what replaced it.
Oh.
It was the build-up, the pickled pheasant.
All right.
They moved it and then they put it back.
Great stuff. Okay, that's fine then. Okay, doke. Job done then. And then the complaint has been received about excessive amounts of dog waste on the Rycroft Lane in Scholes. The complaints request a dog waste glove dispenser to be erected on the road. Are we aware of, do we have any unused dog waste dispensers?
No, we did have one and it got put in Sands because they had theirs stolen. So we haven't got any at the moment, but I could order them. I think they're about £150.
Okay, doke.
And we've got that in the budget.
Right then. So we have that in the budget, but let me make a phone call tomorrow. I may know someone who may have one.
Okay.
Some spare ones. So can we approve that we'll spend the 150 in the budget if my friend on all things dog waste in Kirklees can come up with the goods? Is that okay?
Yeah, and also I might know somebody who would be able to refill that one with bags as well there, because I know somebody who
good.
lives on that
Yeah.
Rycroft Lane.
Okay, doke.
Okay.
So hopefully, so all those in favour of spending 150 quid if I can't get one for free?
Okay.
Great stuff. Thank you. That's that. Hepworth phone box.
Can I just say, I did send you a list today of all the people, I've just put their initials, the people that refill all the dispensers, and I've talked to them all twice this year and they're all fine. They all seem to be working really hard. So thank you to them.
Yeah, thank you to that. Would it,
I filled the one down Water Street.
thank you, Kath. Would it be possible? I hate. Sounds like I'm putting more work on the clerk, which I don't really want to do because I know they're very, very busy. But for me, I think those people who do. If I put together a letter of thanks, would it be possible to get that sent out to all those people that do that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll put a letter of thanks. Thank you to all those people that's doing that for what they're, ongoing and what they do and what have you. We really appreciate it. And yeah. Okay, that's another job for me to do tomorrow. Okay, Councillor Brooke.
I can draft it for you if you like.
That would be great if you want me just to sign it.
Okay.
I'll email you my signature.
Can I suggest that we send in a Christmas? Can I suggest that we send in a Christmas card to them as a proper thank you? Like you do at Christmas and say, thank you for your,
Yeah.
appreciated at
We could do
Christmas.
it, if it would save work, and we could do it then, and we can do it then, whichever way, whichever way is easiest for the clerk.
Nice idea.
Well, I think if we didn't have COVID, we should have a little bun fight for all the people that work for the council.
And do a little bit of work and what have you.
Anyway,
A civic tea.
well, something friendly.
Yeah,
And,
civic tea. Tea
yeah.
is social. Yeah. No, I think that'd be quite a great idea. Hopefully, post-COVID, we can do something like that. That would be really
Yeah.
good. Yep. So, so that's that one done. Then we're on to phone box. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Hepworth phone box. We're not having that anymore because, yeah, we're okay in ratifying the decision not to adopt Hepworth phone box.
Just ask
Councillor
Liz a minute.
Dixon.
So, does the person who's taken on the butchers want to take that on now? Are they going to take on the phone box?
Yes, she is.
All right, great. That saves us a job.
Great stuff. Brilliant.
Yep.
Okie doke. Two, to consider the adoption of 3 more phone boxes. So they are, there's one at Thongsbridge at Woodlands Avenue. Anyone aware of this one?
I'm sorry to say I forgot to go and have a look, but I think it's probably a modern one. You
Let's have a
know,
look at, shall we have a look at Google, Woodlands Avenue?
I did have Councillor Gould asked if we could keep it. I don't know what he had in mind, but he did express an interest.
It'd be nice if he was here. I mean, historically, we've just gone with the ones that are of historic merit, haven't we? The nice red ones, don't we?
Yeah, but I've had what happened was Councillor Davies asked specifically for the one in the post office because he wanted to use it for climate emergency information giving and things like that. And then when I circulated everybody, there was support for all 3. So that's all I can say really, is that except that Councillor East is saying he's not supporting the one for Honley. He thinks it's an ugly new one and he doesn't like it.
Well, considering, I mean, let me just have a look now.
Outside his house.
You can just about see it, even though it's gone dark from my house, my window. And yes,
Oh.
it's one of those, it is a modern one. It is awful. Do you want me to hold my computer up and see if you can all see it? Or
I think the thing is that people are now thinking, instead of thinking of it as an old feature that you should keep, they're thinking about it as an information spot where you could put information about climate emergency or something. You could use it. I think that's people's thinking has changed, that it's not just about.
well, I like the idea, I like the concept, but I don't think we're really lacking places in, you know.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Eventually it becomes an expense, doesn't it?
Well, it is.
Yeah,
because-
yeah. The one at Woodlands Avenue, that's just one of those modern ones with an advertising hoarding on the outside. Yeah, it looks horrible. Do you want me to share my
Okay.
screen?
We'll take your word for it, shall we?
Oh, let's have a go. See if we can.
Councillor Sheard's got her hand up.
Councillor Sheard?
Yeah, I agree with Councillor East. If it's one of those awful 1980s ones, I mean, if it was one of those lovely retro red ones, then, but they're pretty ugly, those 1980s ones.
Yeah,
And
they're
I
not-
presume they do cost money to sort of, I don't
Well,
know.
they're responsible for the upkeep.
Oh, right.
And if it,
Oh, yeah.
and the liability, if it falls on somebody, it becomes loose, and then it's our responsibility. So that's the one at Woodlands Avenue.
Right.
Yeah.
The one at Westgate Honley is exactly the same as that.
Mhm. I mean, I just can't. I mean, Honley have a library, otherwise you could have used it as one of those free book libraries. But I think they've got a very good service at Honley Library. Do they?
We have a library, and you know, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I also have a thoughts about. I think some of the more rural book libraries that we have, I think they're quite, you know, quite nice and quite good. Ones in centres of in more populous village centres, I'm slightly concerned about having a hell of a lot of paper stored in a phone box, and someone goes in and shelters having a fag. Some kids having a crafty fag and what have you. Then the next thing you've got a big fire in a phone box. However, that's probably just my thoughts.
Yeah.
But going through them all one by one, the Woodlands Avenue at Thongsbridge, I don't really think we should be supporting that. I mean, the old ones, they don't cost as much. If the glass gets broken in them, it's very small panes that we can get fixed. And the painting of them, we have the red paint, and that's just how it goes. If the glass gets smashed on one of those, then do we have to, getting a glazier in to mend a phone box? Does that make any sense?
They're pretty ugly looking things, aren't they? I can't see what use they are to anybody.
I can't either. Right, so all those in favour of adopting the Thongsbridge one? Yeah, no, we're not having so that's a no to the Thongsbridge one. The one adjacent to the post office in Home Firth. You say Councillor Davis was quite keen on it?
Yeah.
Right, let's have a look what it looks like.
Yeah, I think it's, and again, they're all modern ones. I think we've had all the red
As
ones.
Councillor Davis, other than saying that, as he, if he was here tonight and expressing his view, or expressing his views on behalf of the climate emergency, I might be willing to go ahead with him, but I just think we're taking on assets just for the sake of taking on assets. I mean, what are anybody else's thoughts?
Well, I can't see what Councillor Davis is putting in these telephone boxes. We have a notice board, don't we, in Home Firth, if you wanted to put anything up about the climate emergency.
Right, so the Home Firth one, if it's this one, if I just share the screen again, I might be convinced on this one. I'm getting me. And Councillor Brooke wants to speak.
Oh, right, that's a nice one, though. Yeah, let's keep that. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Davis has persuaded me. Councillor Brooke. Councillor Brooke, can you hear me?
Yeah, I was going to suggest, I mean, if the climate emergency wants to use it, why don't the climate emergency adopt it than the parish council?
Well, I think if we had them all under one roof, it would be easier for the budgets and sorting out. I mean, knowing that's one of the old ones and in line with the
But then
ones that
again,
we have
I do
said
appreciate
before, I'm going to say, Councillor Sheard?
Yeah, I agree. It's they're iconic. It's like having the red double-decker buses in London. There's something nostalgic about them.
Okay, so we'll adopt that one.
Yes.
There's no initial cost for us to adopt them. We just get them, don't we? And then we go
It's
from
a
there.
pound. It's
A
a
pound.
pound.
We
But then we've got to pay John to paint them, and we have to buy the paint, which is quite expensive and very, very specific about the paint. But
I appreciate that, but one more when we have to buy the paint anyway, I suppose.
Yeah.
And we will, we'll ask the climate change emergency that we'll tell them that we did this one just on their say so. So if they want to give us some money towards it, then thank you very much. And
I mean, hi.
Councillor Sheard?
Yeah, I mean, if it's for the climate emergency, I'd love to see an upright electric bicycle in there that you could rent if one fitted in.
Well, there is some upright bike cabins across from it by the toilets, isn't there?
Yeah, they're disgusting. They're full of dirty nappies.
They need cleaning out. We need. Are they?
Yeah.
Right. If you get the chance, if you put a complaint into Rob Dolby, so it's rob.dolby@kirklees.gov.uk.
Thank you.
And just say that's the state of them, and is anything he can do?
Yeah.
there it is. Is that the one there? It's just on the right.
That's it there.
Yeah.
Again, if we could have an electric bicycle there for rental in that Honley one for the climate emergency, if they
Well, I think if we get rid of it and then we put their proper bikes, I've thought about a proper bike store there for two.
yeah,
Okay.
okay.
There's no bike storage in Honley, so I think a proper bike store there would be better. But get rid of the phone box, and then we'll see if we can get Kirklees to
Okay.
put a bike store there.
Can I just say that there's someone who's been in touch with us recently asking if we could identify places where she can put bike racks that her charity provides.
Oh,
So
yeah.
can I put her in touch with you?
Is
Yeah,
that Rachel Mellor?
yeah, please get in touch with me, and I'll have a chat with
Okay.
her and see what we can come. I don't know where we can find somewhere in Honley, but yeah, I'd love bike rack. Bike racks are good for people that's going shopping and just visiting and popping in, but you want a proper bike store if you're going to work somewhere, because you want to
Yeah.
leave your bike locked up, dry, and know it's going to be there when you come back when you've done a day's work.
Oh, well, she might be interested in that.
Worth having a chat. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. But no, we don't want the Honley one.
So so are we saying yes to the Holmfirth one and no to the other two?
I think that's the case. Yeah, is everyone okay with that?
Okay.
Right, I'll stop
Yeah.
sharing.
Very clever.
No,
Mr.
like I
Chairman.
think that made that a bit easier, didn't it? I'd have been, if I drove through Holmfirth tomorrow and saw that it was a red phone box like that, and they've said get rid of it, I'd have been kicking myself. Okie doke. So now we're going to defibrillators. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. To consider whether the committee wishes to support the replacement of some parts, it has been recommended that supplier that some parts need replacement every 2 years at a cost of £62.50 each for the pads. Possibly also need new batteries. Now, when these were installed, I don't think we ever discussed ongoing maintenance when we gave some money originally for them, did we? What's everyone's thoughts? Councillor Sheard?
I can't believe these aren't connected with the NHS. And also, has anybody got any knowledge that they've ever been used?
Okay, Councillor Bellamy?
Yes, well, ours has been used, and
Right.
somebody comes round
Good.
every couple of weeks and makes sure it's all right.
Oh, can I ask who that is, Kath?
It's now then, it's one of the responders.
Right. And is that the same for the other two? And do we own them all? That's what I wanted to ask. Do we?
I don't know, but I certainly know that because I know who it is what comes and checks this one.
Could you send me their details so I can ask them
Yeah.
who pays for them? Because it seems to me we've bought these three things and then they're meant to be serviced every year. And apparently some of the pads and the batteries only last 2 years and some of them should be replaced every year. I can't find any details about this or ongoing maintenance.
Where are the other two?
Well, there's one on the toilets in Holmfirth and there's one outside the Civic Hall.
Yeah, that were System Vision. Yeah, he provided that free.
But who's doing the maintenance?
Well, I'm presuming it's still
System Vision.
them.
System
Okay.
Vision.
Right. And what about the one at the Civic Hall? Is that belong to them?
I think it belongs to the trust.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it's the same people.
Okay. So the only one.
Right,
where
I'll try and find out as much as I can.
Okay. So it appears that the council isn't responsible for the ongoing maintenance of them.
So basically, this item's on the agenda because we don't know really.
Yeah, I thought I might
Yeah.
get the answers. That's
Yeah,
why it's on the agenda.
So I think it's best to. So the first point, then, if you can inquire with System Vision,
Yeah.
just for some reassurance that they're being maintained and they're looked after,
Yeah,
and that's all that's sorted.
will do.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think you're right. I don't think we want someone who, in a crisis, needs to use it, finds out it doesn't work, and then someone comes back to the parish council saying, "Why aren't you keeping your defibs? You paid
Yeah,
for
but
these."
they do go around checking, and sometimes it's early hours at morning.
So
Okay, that's
just
good.
that reinsurance from them would be great.
Mm.
Okay.
So that's all we're looking for there, isn't it? So
Yeah.
Yeah.
we don't need to do any action other than the clerk's going to inquire with System Vision.
Yeah.
Mm.
Okie doke. And then to note that the maintenance contractor signed a new contract for another year from February 2020 on the same rates and rates as previous. Is aware that the contract will be reviewed next year and that new quotes will be sought. Yep. The clerk asks whether there's a possibility that the maintenance contractor could be considered as an employee rather than a self-employed contractor. This would negate the need for renewing contracts on a regular basis and would give the council more control of the timing of the work. It would also be possibly less expensive. Do we know what the views of the contractor would be regarding that?
He's in favour for to ask the question.
And then the other point is that I would put is, if we actually were taking on staff and we advertised, is there any guarantee that he would get the job? We'd have to employ
No,
the best
no,
person
but-
forward, wouldn't we?
Yeah, you would.
Councillor Bellamy.
Can we afford it? Because the council's already paying staff wages.
Well,
And that'd be 3.
Well, I think it'd be cheaper.
There'd
actually.
be 4 wages, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Going out.
Well-
I think if you think it's an idea, what I'm prepared to do is to look at the relative costings of the two ways of doing it, because it won't just be this committee, it'll be CASC, and then it would be council. So it's a big issue. But I just wondered. You see, my view is, over the year that I've been working, I've come to realise that he and his wife are absolutely committed to the council and do a really good job of putting forward a good view of the council and what it provides. And I just think that we don't really reward them enough for that. I mean, when there was the lockdown, they didn't have any work at all, nothing.
Yeah.
And it just seems, yeah, anyway, that's enough from me.
I think my point of view is, if we are going to look at reviewing the contracts, I think it's perfectly sensible that we, within that review, we review on taking it in-house, which is what you're saying, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can put the costs forward, and then the parish council can have a look at what the costs are either way and how much
Okay.
it would be, and if there's a cost benefit to the parish council, then that's what we would recommend.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that he now has to have insurance up to £10 million because some of the benches are on the road. So he has to pay £800 a year insurance, and we would get that for nothing because we already have all that in our insurance. So I think there are savings, and there's ways.
Yeah.
There's stuff that he can look at. Yeah.
Yeah.
Has anyone want to put any further input there? Okay, so we'll go ahead. So within the review, we'll have a look at the clerk will cost out, what it would take, what it would cost us to
Okay.
carry it on it in-house rather than contracting it out.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So then we're on to letters of thanks from Home Valley Transport for last year's grant. So that's noted, and thank you. And then complaints. To note, complaint regarding overzealous hedge cutting by Kirklees Council. The man's referred to has been referred back to Kirklees. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's to note. Is everyone okay with that?
Yeah.
And then also a complaint from a neighbour of the Civic Hall about disruption caused by investigations into the flooding of the hall. Apologies were given, and the Civic Hall Trust were aware and had apologised for lack of warning given that it was an emergency. I think it's difficult when it's sorry, Councillor Bellamy.
Well, this person, from day one, she's always looked for problems. And that's all I want to say.
That's fine, but having dealt with custom people making complaints for quite a long number of years to the council and what have you, take each one as it is. If they were causing some work from emergency repairs, then I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. We weren't going to flood out, and we didn't want to add damage to our property to affect your property. Is one of the reasons why we deal with floods in a quick time. But we're apologies for any inconvenience that's been put forward. But I think it's more of a trust issue than it is a parish council issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's just a note. Then complaint about rats at the duck feeding area. if you're feeding ducks, you will get rats because people overfeed. It's unfortunate, but then again, the other side of it is you're never far away from a rat.
No,
You're just not.
6 feet, isn't it? 6 feet, they say.
Yeah, something like 6 feet and what have you. It's amazing how many rats I've seen and what have you. And they're
Mm.
all wild. They're all God's creatures. As long as it's not in your house, they're fine. And then a complaint by letter that the bins at Sands Park were overflowing and smelling hot weather. The clerk checked with the volunteer who manages the dog litter in that area and confirmed that he was emptying the bins regular. I mean, there will be some council bins down there as well, won't it? So it's not necessarily one of our bins, is it? Down at the Sands?
Well, she thought from a description it was ours, but he assured me he empties them regularly, so I'm
Yeah.
happy with that.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I mean, yeah. And then last one, a complaint about graffiti on 2 bus shelters, but the maintenance contractor has cracked on and he's be paint. I'm guessing he's probably painted over them by now.
Yes.
Great stuff. Okay, doke. Has anybody got anything else other than that? I think we're at to the close of the meeting.
Yeah.
Thank you all for your attendance. I'm sorry it's dragged on a bit longer than it should have done. Really sorry I've kept you so late on this night of the week. I do apologise, but I think we did have a long meeting and we were a little bit late starting because the other one overran. Thank you very much for your patience and commitment, and see you all again soon.
Well done, Michael.
Thank you, Michael.
Take care.
Thanks.
See you all later.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye now. No need to thank me. Thank you, Liz. Thank you.